Hi Homeworthy, I'm Krysta Meeker. Welcome to my home in Wichita, Kansas.
This holiday season, get ready to unwrap the most magnificent holiday homes with Homeworthy's 25 Days of Christmas. For the month of December, we'll take you inside the most heartwarming houses, decked out for the holidays in true festive fashion. From twinkling lights and elegantly trimmed trees to sparkling ornaments and cozy holiday charm, these homes capture the warmth, wonder, and beauty that make this season so special. So join us as Homeworthy celebrates 25 Days of Christmas. The magic starts now.
Raise your glass. Cheers! Merry Christmas! Happy holidays!
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
So our home was built in 1932, and we have lived here for about 4 years now. We have been slowly kind of renovating it over, very intentionally, very slowly over the 4 years that we've lived here. But when we were searching for a home, the thing that we were really looking for was something that had a very traditional layout. We wanted to have 2 stories, something that would be great for entertaining. And so what we love about this home is that all of the bedrooms are tucked away upstairs. So when we're entertaining, we have those personal spaces separate. And then the downstairs is just a great space for everyone to join together. We also have a beautiful built-in bookcase, so just lots of charm and character packed into our home. An interesting thing about our home is actually that in the 60s, when a main highway was put through the town, our house was actually picked up and moved. So it's not actually on its original lot that it was when the house was built. And I don't know how many were, in the path, but ours was definitely one that was picked up and moved. And for that reason, when we have renovated each of the rooms, there's been a little bit more repair work. The plaster is not in as great of condition because of the moving is what I suspect, but it's still, a beautiful home and it's got good bones. So before we move into the living room, we have this beautiful arched doorway in here that I just love, and I feel like around Christmas time, it is so fun to just enhance it with garlands. So I put together 2 faux garlands here and just a really subtle little ribbon. But one of the things that I like to do is add fairy lights just for a subtle twinkle. And I've got a little tip that I like to use whenever I need to light up something and I want to hide away the cord or I don't have an outlet nearby. I actually just use these little battery-powered fairy lights. I will take a Velcro 3M strip and place one on the battery pack and one on the wall. And that way I can still remove it if I need to for changing out the batteries, but I'm able to light up just about anything without having an outlet nearby. You can use this method on like a banister. I do it with my tablescapes as well. I've done it with my mantle, so pretty much anywhere. And you just kind of tuck the garland over it and it hides it away. And then moving on into the living room, one of the first pieces that you see is this antique piano. This was actually a free Facebook Marketplace find. So a lot of times, at least in my area, you can find pianos for free because they are such a pain to move. And my husband says he is never moving it again because we actually purchased this when we were living at our last home. But it is beautiful. My husband plays and our 5-year-old son likes to sit down here and play with him as well. I also just think it's a really fun thing that we've had throughout the holidays when we have people over. All the kids like to gather around the piano and play it, and I just think it's a fun memory that all of our nieces and nephews will have of spending Christmases here. We just draped some garland on it this year. This is a faux garland, added a velvet bow again. We kind of did a moody green throughout some of it, but I like to accent it with kind of some of that red as well. And then this little silhouette that we have up here is actually my son. I made this little silhouette and it's just so sweet. It's one of my favorite things that we have in the house, and I think it just looks perfect above the piano. So I am very inspired by Edwardian and Victorian decor. So you'll notice a lot of dark wood tones in the home, and a lot of the portraits will kind of give you that feeling as well. I also really like the juxtaposition of feminine and masculine items. So I'll have a lot of ornate mirrors, but accent them with kind of a dark wood where I feel like it's a more handsome kind of look, or black paint as we have the paneling in the entryway. I also like to add a touch of something that feels whimsical or magical, kind of has like a fantasy element to it. So you'll notice little stars, or we've also got book pages and floating candles. I think it keeps it playful and fun. And I think it's really fun also for my son to kind of have an environment that feels enchanting. So this is a curio cabinet that I purchased from Facebook Marketplace. I think I got it for $75, which for a piece like this is an incredible price. And I call it my curio cabinet of curiosities. I like to fill it with kind of oddities and just curious items that I've collected on my treasure hunts, as I call them, when I go to garage sales and estate sales. So you'll notice kind of odd things in here, old books. I like to collect old medicine bottles. And I also went ahead and added some Christmas touches in here just by adding some greenery, some berries, and some ribbons. So this mantle is not original to the house. This was actually another Facebook Marketplace find. It was about an hour and a half away in Oklahoma, and we kind of just made a day of going out and picking this thing up. And one of the things that I really love about collecting old things is a lot of times you're purchasing it from someone who also loves and collects old things. And with this mantle in particular, we drove out and met just a really wonderful couple who showed us around their property. They had tons of old things that they collected, and we just really had a nice connection with them and spent some time with them. But yeah, I feel like every living room needs a mantle. And so we have some fireplaces in the home, but they're not kind of in the main spaces. They're tucked away. And I love, the rich wood tone. We thought we were going to be able to fit it in the car. And unfortunately, the SUV, it would not fit, just slightly too big. And so the couple ended up helping us strap the thing to the hood and drove home with it. And we've got it mounted on the wall. And then for the inside, I kind of have switched this up. I've done a couple different things. Currently, I have a foam board, a project board that I've glued book pages to and then hung these floating candles. I've also done old shutters in here, and I think it's fun to just kind of change it up a little bit, but I do like having something that adds a bit of a glow inside of the fireplace. And then for the stockings, I started doing something kind of fun last year where I found a fabric at an antique store, and I did a no-sew stocking. These are actually just fabric that is fabric glued onto a regular burlap stocking. And then I actually repeated that fabric underneath the tree and used it as a tree skirt. It's not cut, it's not sewn. I just kind of draped it around, and I think that's a really inexpensive way to add a little bit of personality, a little something different to your Christmas decor. So for the Christmas tree this year, I really wanted to use a lot of natural items, and so I went in with a lot of berry picks. I've kind of got these deep blue berry picks, and then I have kind of a deep red as well. I really, in this room, like it to feel kind of moody. We do have lighter walls, but we don't have a ton of natural light in here, and so I like to bring the mood in through the elements that we're decorating with rather than having the walls super dark. And so Christmas is kind of the same thing. I like to have a nice moody feel to the tree. I found this beautiful burgundy ribbon that I just tied little bows all over it to add in. And then we also added these spindly branches. I call them spooky branches. I also added some, you'll see some like black flowers up here and some burgundy flowers. So sometimes I feel like when you're in a rut, it's fun to just stop, kind of check out what you have, shop your house a little bit and see how you can reimagine the items that you already have. Of course, added the candles. That's obviously a very old world look. They are battery powered, so you're not going to set your tree on fire. A lot of the ornaments are actually DIY ornaments. These amber ornaments are my favorite. They are not glass, they are plastic, and I just used some alcohol ink in them and then spun them around and used a blow dryer to dry the alcohol ink in there, and they look very similar to like an amber glass. So those are my favorite. And then I also have these black ones that I have painted with a matte chalk paint and just mixed a bit of baking soda in with it to give it a really textured matte look. And then I also kind of, when I'm out doing my thrifting and things, I find ornaments. And so this little bookshelf was one that I found, I believe, at an estate sale this year. And then lastly, I have these little stars that I found on clearance last year. They were really inexpensive little cardboard stars. And I just took some Rub and Buff. It's like a gilding wax. And I mixed a black and an antique gold together to create this, kind of antique looking star ornament. Here in Wichita, Thursdays are kind of the beginning of the garage sale week. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And that is the day that we would kind of always go out and, find things, kind of get first dibs on things. In our area, I think just in the Midwest, probably in general, I feel like there's a bit more access to vintage pieces. And so I actually find quite a few really cool things at garage sales. One of the things that I got at a garage sale are these vintage wingback chairs. I actually have a set of them. The Christmas tree kind of kicked the other one out, but I got each of these for $15 a piece. And it's always an adventure trying to get them into my car by myself. And thankfully, there was another man at the garage sale who helped me load these up, and they just barely fit in my car, but they were such a fun find. I paid $30 for the pair. So my husband is very interested in vintage and antiques as well. I think he is just such a supportive human and enjoys anything that makes me happy. So there are some times when I come home with like the chairs that he's like, okay, all right. Usually he's good with me going out and finding things on my own. When I have to make him do a Facebook Marketplace run, he does it without complaints, but I'm sure it gets a little overwhelming at times. So over here we have our couch. We have a very lived-in couch, as I like to call it. This is what I would say is a cloud couch dupe. A little bit less expensive than a cloud couch, but definitely still very comfortable. We love coming in here and just lounging out for movie nights. And then up above the couch, we have this painting that I also got at a garage sale, if you can believe it or not. This is an original painting, and I bought it for $35. The gal that I bought this from said that it was gifted to her, and she had no idea what the value was, but she suspected that it was much more than the $35 we paid for it. But it's beautiful. It's one of my absolute favorite finds. And I've just draped a little bit of garland on it, and then I have these little candle sconces I got for a couple dollars at a garage sale. That I've put a little bit of greenery and a ribbon on just to add a little Christmas touch over here. So we actually just upgraded the lighting about a year ago, right before Christmas. We originally had some ceiling fans in here that were just kind of big and bulky, and we didn't really feel like we needed the airflow as much in this room. And so we actually found these on Amazon. And I would have loved to have put vintage lighting in here, but finding a pair is really a little more difficult. And so I found these, and I feel like they were a great, inexpensive option for a vintage lighting. So before I take you into the dining room, I want to show you One other little find, and I get questions about this all the time. Above this doorway, I have a buffet mirror. And this is just something that every time I post pictures of this area, I get questions about. And it's actually a mirror that I found at a barn sale for $10. I hung it up here and it fit perfectly. And it actually inspired me to update this a little bit because the doorway here was actually painted white when we moved in. And a couple of months ago, I decided to strip the paint off and restain it. And now it kind of just adds a lot of mood, and it looks like this mirror was just meant for this spot. And then we typically host a couple of Christmases. So we have families that live in kind of smaller surrounding towns outside of Wichita, and we're kind of in the middle. So everybody kind of meets here at our place, which is really fun for me because I get to deck out the house and entertain, which I think is really fun. So for the tablescape, I kind of have a few pieces that I like to use in almost all of my tablescapes. So my advice is to find vintage glassware that you really like that is, can be used in lots of different tablescapes. So the Anchor Hawking Wexford glasses are my absolute favorite. I have them in several different styles. They go with, I've used them for Halloween. I've used them for so many different tablescapes, and they just twinkle and sparkle in the light. So the nice thing about these ones in particular is they're not highly sought after. So they're really inexpensive. If they break, I can just buy another piece. I see them all the time at estate sales and garage sales. So definitely say find like a nice glassware that fits with, any tablescape that you're creating. So this is actually just like a silver platter, and use those as charger plates rather than buying chargers. And something I like about it is they're all a little bit different, so it adds a lot of interest to the table. They're really easy to come upon when you're out thrifting or at garage sales, things like that. And I have accented it here with a green transferware. So we've kind of got our greens and reds, and then a Wexford Waterford plate on top of that. And a cute little touch for Christmas, or you could do it for any tablescape, but I love these little bow napkins. And to add just a little personal touch to the table, you could always do a little name tag. So I actually just used some little pine cones to hold up the name tag, and I grabbed some little price tags, and just a really inexpensive stamping kit is a great way to add personalization to your tablescape. You could use this on a gift, or I've even done it like for stockings. You can make little tags for those as well. For the centerpiece, I created just kind of a little arrangement of some of the elements that are throughout the room. So you'll see these dried hydrangeas I also have on the tree. And then just mix some greenery, some pine cones in. And something that I like to do for my tablescapes to add just a little bit more of, that magical touch is to put fairy lights underneath my table runner. And again, I'm using that same little trick of using the Velcro to hide the battery pack just underneath the table. Another garage sale win, you could say, are these chairs. I found all of these at a garage sale I had been looking for a long time, and they had 6, which was exactly what I needed. I cannot remember what I paid for these. I think I paid around $100 for all of them, but really inexpensive in comparison to buying something new where you'd pay at least $100 per chair. So I absolutely love these. They were a great find. So the table was also a Facebook Marketplace find. I want to say it was like $25. The one that we had in here previously was a table that my husband and stepdad custom made for our wedding. We wanted a sweetheart table, and we ended up using it for our dining table for a long time, which worked great. But we wanted something that was a little bit wider for our actual dinner table. And we found this one, brought it home. I painted the legs on it I love that it's kind of got this OG edge detailing on it, and it's just very traditional style and fits really nicely in the room. And while the chairs don't match, they do look really nice with the table. The wood tones are very similar. This rug is from, I believe, Rugs USA, and it's actually an outdoor rug. So I love to use outdoor rugs underneath the dining table because they're so much easier to clean if you get food or anything on it. And they tend to be a lot less expensive as well. The checkered or harlequin pattern is something that I really love. In fact, you will see that I've also done that in my kitchen. I love the harlequin pattern. It's very classic. It adds a lot of interest, but because the pattern is a larger scale, it helps to let your eye still move about the space while still adding a big impact with pattern. So this china cabinet was actually a family heirloom on my husband's side of the family. This was his great-grandma's, and his sister was kind of the first one to get it, and she didn't have room for it in her home and passed it to us, which I was more than happy to take it. As you'll notice, I really love dark wood tones, and I love the detailing on the inside of the glass. We've kind of adorned it here with a fresh garland. And then once again, I kind of have just added all of my little thrifted treasures. Lots of little just thrifted treasures. I've got some of the vintage plates and things in here that I've picked up at garage sales. I would say almost everything in here is probably secondhand, with the exception of maybe this jar here. And then I've just kind of added a little bit of greenery in here and some pine cones just to give it, you know, that little Christmas touch. I actually found this bust of Wagner. He is a composer at a garage sale. I want to say I paid like $10 for it. And he actually does have a little bow tie on, and I thought it would be fun just to add a little red bow for Christmas on him there. These are old theater chairs. To be honest with you, I found these on Facebook Marketplace. I don't know that the gal, this is one of the ones where I sent my husband to go pick it up for me, and I always say to him, did you ask them? And, you know, did you get any history on it? And of course he's like, no, I just picked them up. But I loved the color of them, so I don't know where they came out of. They were in, you know, a small surrounding town to us, and yeah, they're just, I love the green, that really deep green color I think is so pretty, and it's just an interesting way to add a bit of extra seating. I actually have another set of theater chairs that I have upstairs as well that you'll see here in just a bit. So for the buffet, I like to keep the decor pretty simple because I like to always have a drink station here. When we're hosting, I will always make a Christmas punch and then put a bottle of champagne nearby so that that can be added for anyone who wants to have an adult beverage, but there's, you know, something that everyone can drink. So I like to just use a vintage tray and of course my Anchor Hawking glasses and pitcher. Over here I have a Charles Dickens Christmas stories book that I have in this cloche, which was a really fun find I found right before Christmas last year at an estate sale, and a little Christmas tree. And I love using items like rocking horses. You'll see I kind of have those in several places. I feel like they are perfect for Christmas time. Anything that kind of represents like little toys. I feel like it helps to kind of set the scene. A lot of times when I'm getting inspired and creating Christmas decor, I want the space to feel like you're stepping back in time. So I will use items that, you know, you would see, you know, in kind of those old world settings. And then over here, I really wanted to add a Christmas tree in the dining room this year. We don't have a ton of space, but we do kind of have this little nook over here. And so I got just a faux pencil tree that tucks away nicely. And I really didn't purchase anything new for the tree this year. I kind of used what I had, and I feel like it came out very New England inspired with the tartan ribbon and the dried hydrangeas, some berries. I kept it really simple, just added some bows, and I think it just, you know, adds to that Christmassy feel when you're at the dinner table in the dining room. And then another thing that I really like to do when I have the opportunity to is add a mirror behind the tree, just to kind of reflect the Christmas lights. And this mirror was another Facebook Marketplace find. I actually purchased this for our kitchen, which we have been renovating for the last 6 months. So this is a temporary spot. So keep in mind, you can move your furniture around. You can, kind of swap out things on the walls for your Christmas decor. It always looks better if you can make space for it rather than trying to stuff it into an empty corner. Now let me take you into the kitchen. So the kitchen has been our most recent project. We've been working on it for just about 6 months now, so it's not quite finished yet, but we are back to a stage where it's functional again, which is really nice. So originally, there was actually a wall, about a half wall right here, and this was a kitchen nook, a small kitchen nook, and then we had the kitchen over here. The appliances was kind of our major issue with the old layout. We had the refrigerator that was still here, but we had our stove right next to it, and then the dishwasher was over here away from the sink. So when deciding to renovate it, we really wanted to increase the functionality for all of the modern appliances, but also keep the old world feel. We wanted to choose finishes that you would see in a home from the 30s. And we went with the classic checkerboard floors. We really wanted to save the original hardwoods that we found underneath. When we pulled out the old cabinets, we were really excited to find the original hardwoods. Unfortunately, after pulling out kind of the flooring that had been put on top, we found that there were thousands of nails that had been put into the flooring to silence it, to quiet it down, and we just wouldn't have been able to refinish it the way that it needed to be in order to, have that flooring moving forward. So initially, I really wanted to stain the checkerboard pattern onto wood floors, but we had to rip them all out, which was a ton of work. And my husband and I have actually done most of the work ourselves, aside from, electrical, plumbing, and then we did hire out for drywall as well. But it has been a labor of love, and we are now at a point where we're kind of adding all of the finishing details. We still need to do hardware, which we've chosen to do unlacquered brass for the hardware. We've also done that with the sink. And the wonderful thing about unlacquered brass is it ages and patinas. So you'll actually see, we've only had this for a couple of months, and you'll already see all of this really beautiful patina on it, which I think just lends itself well to the age of the home. Like, it fits right in, looks like it's maybe been here for a long time. And so the hardware will do that as well. As far as hardware goes, we did also take all of the hardware off of the doors and strip years of paint off of them. So we've kind of got the original hardware in here that looks really beautiful, shined up again. We are building a custom vent hood cover that will span the entire wall between the two cabinets. This will be stained a dark wood like you see throughout the rest of the home. I think that element will really help to warm up the space. So I'm very excited for that, but that is something that we are still working on. So yeah, it's been, like I said, it's been a labor of love. There's a lot that went into it, but we're definitely starting to kind of see the end result. We will also be replacing the range for something that fits a little bit better, and then of course decorating. So I really want to add some softness to the kitchen as well, and so we will also add cafe curtains and a little curtain over here. And I think those details between, the fabric and the wood and all of the decor is really going to help to soften it a bit and give it just a bit more of that old world charm. One of the ways that we saved money on this project was to use RTA cabinets. So we actually had all of these cabinets shipped to us in flat boxes and built the cabinets and installed them. So that's, if you're getting ready to renovate a kitchen or a bathroom or something, RTA cabinets, if you're handy enough, you know how to use some power tools. They are fairly easy to put together. For the backsplash, we decided to do a beadboard. We do have beadboard throughout the home that I believe is original, so I felt like that was kind of the perfect touch. We also have some details in here that feel a little bit more high-end, and I feel like the addition of the beadboard helps to keep it quaint and fit that kind of cozy feeling of the home. And we initially were going to keep the walls white, including the backsplash, and I just kept feeling like it looked like a white box. So I ended up deciding to do a green in here, and this is actually called Hampshire Gray by Benjamin Moore. I did have it matched actually through a different company, but yeah, it's a really nice muted green, so it doesn't feel overpowering, but it definitely adds a bit of mood to the space, and it is part of like a historic line, and so it's, you know, kind of on par with what you would see in an older home. Right when you walk into the home, you're greeted by the staircase, and when we first looked at the home, that was one of the things that I was super excited about, just envisioning all of the Christmas decorating around the staircase. And so I really like an old world style Christmas, lots of garlands, long velvet ribbon. And so this year in particular, I kept it really simple on the staircase with a faux cedar garland kind of just draped down. And like I said, I love the long floppy velvet bows, and I did kind of like a deeper red this year. I feel like that's very sophisticated looking and complements kind of the moody elements in the room really nicely. This was something that we DIY'd ourselves a couple of years ago, and I think we took 5 runner rugs and put them together. This was mainly done for safety because we have a little one and a dog, but it definitely adds a lot of visual interest vertically and is something that you notice right when you walk in the door. When we moved into this home, I was a stay-at-home mom and was really looking for a creative outlet. My son was about a year old at this time, and I had a little bit more free time. Our schedule was a little bit more regular with naps and things, and I really just kind of focused on home decor. His nursery was a big inspiration for me. When designing his nursery, I really fell in love with creating a cohesive design and learning a bit more about interior design. One of the things that I've kind of always done is collect vintage and antique pieces. That's just something that I've been around my whole life. And it's definitely a more cost-effective way of decorating a home. And so between collecting vintage and antique pieces and doing DIYs, we were able to decorate the home on a budget. So throughout that process, I decided to start a YouTube channel and kind of just share the journey of, designing this home from start to finish, and my seasonal decorating. Halloween and Christmas are my 2 big ones. And yeah, so through that, I have also created an Etsy shop where we curate vintage and antique art pieces that we enhance and resize and sell the digital file of, so that anyone who's kind of inspired by what they're seeing can also go and look at a collection of art and find something for their own homes. Okay, so now I'm going to take you up to the library, as I like to call it, and my son's room. So one of my favorite original features of this home is this big built-in. When I first saw it, it was definitely something that charmed me. But I will say the first couple of years styling this, it was kind of a mess. When you have a really big space like this, it can be difficult to style. So I really spent a lot of time curating lots of pieces to create this. It's almost like an art piece more than anything. Through garage sailing and estate sailing, I started collecting old books. I like to decorate with old books anyway, but I needed a ton more than what I kind of had, the first couple of years living here. And so anytime I was at a garage sale, I would keep an eye out for old encyclopedia sets, because I found that oftentimes they were being sold really inexpensively or even given away sometimes. There are definitely sets that I got completely for free or I got for less than $1 a book. These old law books, I actually got these from an auction, and I kind of forgot that I had bid on them, but I was the first one to bid. I placed a $2 bid and won 13 of them. They're just really, really beautiful, and they're so fun to look through. There's lots of interesting things. And then I've got, you know, just kind of all kinds of little trinkets and treasures that I've also collected that I like to put throughout. And then I always like to add some kind of holiday touch to this. So again, just adding some greenery, some ribbons. Because I like to have that whimsical feel, I've added, you know, some skeleton keys. You'll actually notice that over here on our Christmas tree, I have these flying keys, which I thought was just kind of a fun fantasy-like element. And then I've also added these book page star garlands, which I think are very fitting for the area. Some bows that complement the color of the books really nicely. And then I've topped it with a paper star, which again, I think just using that element of paper in here in the library is really fitting. It is mostly decorative. You know, we do have some of our books in here, but a lot of these are really just vintage pieces that I've collected and curated to create this look that we have here. These are kind of a more sentimental find, I guess you could say. These theater chairs actually came out of the auditorium of my historic high school. I actually just stumbled upon them on Facebook Marketplace one day, and I guess when they were renovating the auditorium, they sold off all of the chairs. The gal that I bought them from said that most of them were purchased in bulk by someone else, but she got a couple of sets of them and was selling one of them. So yeah, these I do believe were original to the high school, and it was the first high school here in Wichita. So it's nice just to have a little piece of history that I have a connection with. These were in the high school when I attended. And then I just threw these pillows on here. I love floral tapestry. These are actually just an Amazon pillowcase find, but I think they complement the dark kind of moody colors in the space really nicely. And then you'll notice that I also have this fabric on the bottom of the tree here. This is, again, just a fabric that I found out thrifting. Actually, this was a garage sale find. And I just kind of wrapped it around the basket that this tree is already in, and really, really inexpensive. I think I bought it for $2. So you don't always have to spend, you know, $50 on a Christmas tree skirt. You can just use, you know, fabric, and I actually think it looks much more unique than something that would be store-bought. So now I'm gonna take you into what I like to call the storybook room, which is my son Jameson's room. So when designing his room, from the get-go, when I created his nursery, my goal was to create something that would grow with him and invest in pieces that he could use for years and years. And so one of the first pieces that I actually purchased was this dresser over here. So I found this at a little antique store, and I knew that I needed a changing table for him, but I didn't want to buy something that I then would get rid of after he, you know, was approaching the age of 2. So I wanted to find a dresser that I could just put a changing pad on top of, and then once he grew out of the diaper stage, I could just remove the changing pad and it acts as his dresser. So it has, you know, had multiple uses. And so you'll notice actually right here, there's a bit of wear that's from our pant buckles and from our pant buttons and buckles. I've thought about touching it up, but I kind of think it's part of its story now, so I've just left it. But I think the colors and the deep wood tone is very handsome, and it fits really nicely in his room. Really what sparked my idea behind the design of his room was this little Admiral Fox is what he is called. And I found this was the very first purchase. So this was our first furniture purchase. This was our first decor purchase. But I found him, he was just a print that I found on Etsy, and something about it just felt really different than what you typically see in nurseries. Had that old world feel that I love, but it was still really playful. And so he is actually, you know, the inspiration behind the whole design. So when my son was about a year old is when we actually moved into this home, and I got to kind of reimagine the space for a second time. That's when we decided to do this black accent wall with the picture frame molding. This was a DIY, I will say. There are definitely some quirks to it. It was our first time doing it. We've done it, you know, throughout the house in many other areas now. But this was definitely a learning experience, and it just adds a lot of interest to the room. I love the way that the wood tones pop off of it and the brass pieces, you know, and then once he was ready for a big boy bed and we were moving him out of the crib, I got to reimagine the room for a third time and just continued to kind of build on this design and, like I said, invest in pieces that he would have for a long time. So rather than buying a toddler bed, I found this beautiful antique bed on Facebook Marketplace. I probably paid less than what I would have paid for a new bed. And I brought it home and used a bit of Restore Finish on it, did a wax on it, cleaned it up really nicely. And we ended up just using bumpers in the bed to help keep him in, rather than, like I said, purchasing a toddler bed. So then eventually we can take the bumpers out and he will be able to use this bed for years. Eventually, if he doesn't want this bed anymore, we can throw it in the guest room. So again, just being really intentional about the purchases and buying things that we're going to use for a really long time. And this little art piece up here is actually another little DIY. I made the frame for it, and this is Winnie the Pooh's map of the 100-acre wood. I thought this was just a fun little playful map to add in here. To keep it, you know, a lot of the design is something that can grow with him, but I definitely want there to be elements that feel very childlike, and I think, you know, the map definitely adds that element. So I drew a lot of inspiration actually from Christopher Robin's rooms throughout all of the movies. And I wanted to kind of pull little bits and pieces that I saw from the different rooms and things. And so classic vintage patterns were one of the things that I wanted to incorporate. So the classic like ticking stripe I think is great for a boy's room, and then this cute little patchwork pillow accents it nicely with the plaids. And then for Christmas, we like to do a nutcracker theme in here. So you'll see a lot of tartan ribbon and things like that in here, which I think accents the nutcracker theme really nicely. So over in this corner, we have a reading nook that I created for him. As I said, the room is called the storybook room, so I really wanted it to feel magical and just for him to have a place to relax and read and draw. We do have a playroom, so this space is really kind of just for the more relaxing activities and sleeping, that kind of thing. But this little corner, I just added a little canopy that hangs from the ceiling. These star lights were kind of a fun magical touch, and then I found these wall branches that kind of climb up out from behind. It just kind of gives this like magical feel, and I like to add little holiday decorations to them. So around Halloween, I'll put little ghosts, you know, hanging from the branches. But I found these postcards of antique cars at an estate sale a couple months ago and got them for, I think, 50 cents a piece or something. And I just thought they were really cute in here. And we have, you know, some additional nutcrackers and things that I've added to the branches. This piece was another piece that I actually bought for his nursery, kind of as decor to begin with, because I bought it, you know, before I had him. I found it on Facebook Marketplace. It was really inexpensive. It's a beautiful solid wood rocking horse. And obviously the first couple of years he was much too small for it, but now he's at the perfect age and still just absolutely loves this thing. And it's, you know, one of those pieces that is, you know, acts as decor, but it's also really functional. He enjoys playing on it. So this was a fun find. It's, you know, one of my favorite things that I purchased for his room. And then over here, I have a little desk area that I've actually just added recently. I went on a hunt. This was just before Halloween when I was getting ready to decorate his room. I went on a hunt to the antique store and found this antique square nail desk. So it's very, very old. And I wanted to also get a chair to match it, but these were actually in different booths. And they are just the perfect fit. I love this little Windsor chair. It's the perfect size for him. It was such a win that day to find both of them. That was like the only chair that I found that they had, you know, in another booth, and they just fit perfectly together. One quirky little thing about this desk actually that I didn't notice until I was editing my video that I was putting together when I brought the desk in here is that one of the legs is actually not the original leg. It is actually different. So that's just one of those things that I think is quirky and fun about it. And then I've added, you know, just some artwork up here, his colored pencils. He loves to color and draw. He's 5 years old and very artistic. He loves to create little storybooks of his own. And so it's really sweet to just see him up here in his little chair drawing away at his desk. So of course the storybook room has to have its own little library. So I actually found this little bookshelf. It was, again, an Amazon find. But I love that it has a little cutout so that I could put it over the baseboards and mount it up on the wall. I think nowadays we're seeing a lot of the floating shelves, and I wanted something that looked a little more traditional. So I was really excited to find this, and we like to switch up his books for the holidays. I think that's a fun way to decorate festively. And then of course he has his own collection of books down here at the bottom. So yeah, and then we added just this little nutcracker garland, and Admiral Fox's friends are hanging above with a touch of garland as well. Bye, Homeworthy. Thanks for touring my home today. Happy holidays, and I will see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.